Lord.
Here we are once again, my brothers and sisters. What a great honor it is for me to share another Living Hope Today study with you. Thank you for being here. Today, we're going to cover 2 chapters in the book of Joshua. You might recall that we're in this section of the book where the land is being divided up, and it's being specifically stated who gets what and how much do they get and what are these borders like. And what we saw yesterday in chapter 15, that God spends an amazing amount of time telling us about Judah. We see that Judah is the line that the Christ comes through. We see that Caleb and Boaz and King David and Jesus come through the line of Judah. Okay, today we move into Joseph's line. Now you remember that Joseph died in Egypt, right? He was estranged from his father for many, many years, not of his own making, but because his brothers sold him into slavery. And while in Egypt, not only did God raise him up to be the leader of, almost the supreme leader of all of Egypt, but God also granted him 2 sons. And we'll look at that this morning as we go through these verses. Let's first go back to the map and see what we can remember. You remember these colored areas that represent the various territories that the tribes are assigned. You remember that Levi gets no land because their great reward is to know the Lord. Judah, as we spoke of yesterday in chapter 15, is in that sort of orange salmon colored area there, one of the largest territories. But today we're going to focus in on these 2. One is Ephraim, and the other is Manasseh. Okay, and what you need to remember about Manasseh is both on the east side of the Jordan and the west side of the Jordan. Okay, that's how it got distributed. Now, another thing to remember about this is that Jacob blessed all his sons. Do you remember? All right, God promised the land would be theirs. Jacob blessed his sons, and he adopted, spiritually speaking, Ephraim and Manasseh as his own. In chapter 48 of the book of Genesis, you might remember that as he blesses the sons of Joseph, what does he do? His hands cross over like this, and he blesses Manasseh and Ephraim in the wrong order, at least according to Joseph. Joseph was upset about it, if you recall. In the end, you're supposed to bless the firstborn first, right? And Manasseh's the firstborn. Okay, so he's supposed to receive the primary blessing from Jacob, his grandfather, but instead, Jacob crosses his hands over and gives Ephraim the primary blessing, the blessing of the firstborn, saying that Ephraim will be greater than Manasseh over time. Now, we're going to see that play out, but right now on the map, you see that in terms of territory, Manasseh is granted much more territory than Ephraim. But we'll get to that as we move forward. Let's go to the chapter. The allotment for Joseph, that's what we're talking about. Okay, so he's one of the 12 brothers, but he's not there anymore. His line, though, is going to be honored by God by giving him basically a double portion because of his 2 sons. Okay, the allotment of Joseph began at the Jordan of Jericho, east of the waters of Jericho, and went up from there through the desert into the hill country of Bethel. It went on from Bethel, that is Luz, across over to the territory of the Arkites in Ataroth. I wonder if Steven Spielberg has read the book of Joshua. Some of these names sound just like those Star Wars names. Anyway, descended westward to the territory of the Japhletites, as far as the region of Lower Beth Horon and on to Gezer, the ending at the sea, which would be the Mediterranean Sea. Manasseh and Ephraim, okay, again, these are the 2 sons, the descendants of Joseph. They received their inheritance. This was the territory of Ephraim, clan by clan. Notice that in the description, the younger son, Ephraim, the one that received the primary blessing from his grandfather Jacob, he's the one that's described first. This was the territory of Ephraim, clan by clan. The boundary of their inheritance went from Adar in the east to upper Beth Horon and continued to the sea from Mikmethath on the north. It curved eastward to Taanath Shiloh, passing by it to Janoah on the east. Then it went down from Janoah to Ataroth, and Nahara touched Jericho and came out at the Jordan. And from Tapua, the border went west to the Kenah ravine and ended at the sea. Again, that's the Mediterranean Sea. This was the inheritance of the tribe of Ephraimites, clan by clan. It also included all the towns and their villages that were set aside for the Ephraimites within the inheritance of the Manassites. They did not, pay attention to verse 10. They did not dislodge the Canaanites living in Gezer. To this day, the Canaanites live among the people of Ephraim, but are required to do forced labor. So we see here that they were not exterminated completely, as some of the texts in the book of Joshua say everybody was exterminated in the takeover. But here we see, no, some were left. So we're back to that statement we made several chapters ago about how sometimes in the text hyperbole is used to reinforce the victory of the battle. In other words, everything was absolutely destroyed. Well, here we see that there are Canaanites still alive, living in Ephraim's territory. Although they have been subjugated, they're required to do forced labor. This was the allotment for the tribe of Manasseh. Okay, so Ephraim went first in the description. Now the firstborn son, Manasseh, is going to also be counted and described. So this was the allotment for the tribe of Manasseh as Joseph's firstborn. Notice the text wants to make sure we remember that. That is for Machir, Manasseh's firstborn. Machir was the ancestor of the Gileadites, who had received Gilead and Bashan because the Machirites were great soldiers. So the allotment was for the rest of the people of Manasseh, the clans of Abiezer, Helek, Asriel, Shechem, Hefer, and Shemida. These are the other male descendants of Manasseh, son of Joseph, by their clans. Again, you have to appreciate how detailed God gets in certain instances to describe Judah exactly, now to describe Ephraim and Manasseh's territory very thoroughly as well. Now, Zelophehad, son of Hefer, the son of Gilead, the son of Machir, the son of Manasseh, had no sons, but only daughters, whose names were Mahlah, Noah, Hagla, Milcah, and Tirzah. Okay, they went to Eleazar the priest, Joshua son of Nun. Those are the two leaders, and the rest of the leaders too, and said, the Lord commanded Moses to give us an inheritance among our brothers. All right, so Joshua gave them an inheritance along with the brothers of their father according to the Lord's command. Notice how the Bible just blows right past that. This is what was said. This is what happened. Okay, but understand, culturally speaking, that this is phenomenal, that God doesn't have any sort of hang-up problem by honoring these ladies with property. No problem at all. They're given on the property on an equal basis as the men because they are the rightful heirs of the property. God says, yeah, let's do it. That's the heart of God. Manasseh's share consisted of 10 tracts of land besides Gilead and Bashan east of the Jordan, because the daughters of the tribe of Manasseh received an inheritance among the sons. The land of Gilead belonged to the rest of the descendants of Manasseh. The territory of Manasseh extended from Asher to Mikmethath, east of Shechem. The boundary ran southward from there to include the people living at En-Tappuah. Manasseh had the land of Tappuah, but Tappuah itself on the boundary of Manasseh belonged to the Ephraimites. Again, extreme detail, extreme understanding. This is exactly how it turned out. Then the boundary continued south to the Kana ravine. There were towns belonging to Ephraim lying among the towns of Manasseh, but the boundary of Manasseh was the northern side of the ravine and ended at the sea. On the south, the land belonged to Ephraim. On the north, to Manasseh. The territory of Manasseh reached the sea and bordered Asher on the north and Issachar on the east. Within Issachar and Asher, Manasseh also had Beth-shan, Ibleam, and the people of Dor, Endor, Taanach, and Megiddo, together with their surrounding settlements. The third in the list is Naphath. Yet the Manassites were not able to occupy these towns, for the Canaanites were determined to live in that region. Notice again, we're back to the point that not all the Canaanites were wiped out in the occupation of the Promised Land. All right, this is something God commanded them to do, but it didn't happen all the way done. It happened for the most part, but there are still some Canaanites in the land. However, when the Israelites grew stronger, they subjected the Canaanites to forced labor, but they did not drive them out completely. The people of Joseph said to Joshua, notice, it's the people of Joseph, all right? So the people of Ephraim and Manasseh, why have you given us only one allotment and one portion for an inheritance? We are a numerous people, and the Lord has blessed us abundantly. So some are saying, look, we don't have enough room for all the people we have. If you are so numerous, Joshua answered, and if the hill country of Ephraim is too small for you, go up into the forest and clear land for yourselves there in the land of the Perizzites and Rephaites. We're talking about going north. The people of Joseph replied, the hill country is not enough for us, and all the Canaanites who live in the plain have iron chariots, both those in Bethshan and its settlements and those in the valley of Jezreel. But Joshua said to the house of Joseph, to Ephraim and Manasseh, you are numerous and very powerful. You will have not only one allotment, but the forested hill country as well. Clear it, and its farthest limits will be yours. Though the Canaanites have iron chariots, and though they are strong, you can drive them out. Again, what happens here? Well, their population is huge, their territory is extended, and Joshua once again delivers the news, it's time to drive them out. You guys can do it. Let's go. Very interesting, isn't it? But I want you to see two things today. Number one, God wants to make sure we understand that Judah gets the most territory of one singular tribe, but Joseph is rewarded with two sections of territory from Ephraim to Manasseh, really three if you think about the east side of the Jordan and the west side of the Jordan for Manasseh as one big area, right? But as two separate places, three territories for Joseph. God remembers the faithfulness of his people, and although Joseph never really experienced the promised land, his descendants, God works on an eternal time frame. His descendants were blessed because of his faithfulness. It matters how we live today. God uses our lives today to impact generations to come. And with that said, I pray that you serve him well today. God bless you.
Who is it who for sinners shed his blood, and now for cleansing all can plunge beneath that flood. It's Jesus. But do you know who He is? He's the image of the invisible God, and He's the brightness of His glory, the first, the last, the future, the past. He is God.